the Faria home in Troy, Missouri, 2 days after Christmas. Russ Faria calls 911, saying he thinks his wife Betsy has killed herself.
I wish you do this to me.
A medical examiner says she was stabbed 55 times, her arms nearly severed. Many of the stabbings may have been after she was already dead.
A crime of passion. When you stab somebody over 50 times, it's usually a crime of passion, a husband or wife. I felt right away it was Russ.
Now, for the first time, you are hearing and seeing evidence like the 911 tape and police interrogation of Russ Faria, the immediate suspect in the savage slaying.
You was stabbed over 25 times.
Oh my God, no.
25 times. Over 25 times.
And they're not done yet.
They're still counting.
The major case squad questions him for days.
God is in this room with us right now.
And God knows that I did not do this.
Faria does not back down.
I did not do this. I did not do it.
As part of a joint investigation with the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, I interviewed Faria in prison less than 3 months after a jury had convicted him of murdering his wife.
Did you kill Betsy? No, I didn't. I loved her. I would never and could never do anything like that to anybody, let alone somebody that I love.
Evidence techs did not find a drop of blood on him, but police did find these bloody slippers in a closet and a light switch that appeared swiped with something bloody.
How do you explain bloody slippers?
Well, judging by the way that they looked, it appeared to me that they looked like they were dipped.
Only those slippers, but no bloody footprints.
I hadn't even been wearing my slippers. And then I'm told that they were in my closet, which I never put them in my closet.
And defense attorney Joel Schwartz says they found no evidence of cleanup.
They took the pipes to look for blood. There was no evidence of a shower that night. There was no evidence of blood anywhere in the shower or in the drain pipes.
During the trial, the state focused on Faria's demeanor. Prosecutor Leah Askey told jurors, quote, "He never needed a Kleenex." And Faria seemed stone-faced during our prison interview.
Well, I've put a lot of things behind me. I've made peace with a lot of things. I've shed a lot of tears. When she was diagnosed, both times with cancer, I loved her. I love her still. You know, I didn't kill her.
4 alibi witnesses claim Russ was with them from 6 to 9 p.m. in O'Fallon, Missouri. The 30-minute drive from their house to Troy puts Faria home within minutes of him making the 911 call. Betsy's family wonders why Faria wasn't an emotional mess during that call.
Your wife is laying there dead. You'd be bawling. You'd be hard to communicate with. I mean, he would stop. I mean, she'd ask him a question and he'd stop, answer it, and then start right back up with this wailing.
And how in the world could he think it was suicide when Betsy was stabbed 55 times?
She had threatened it previously. She had actually tried it previously, you know, left notes and that. My mind wasn't working right. You know, I saw slashes on her arms and I jumped to conclusions.
Faria says he knew police would focus on him. He's the husband, but even sitting in prison after a judge sentenced him to life, he says he would not change how he handled it.
Schwartz said Faria would not take time served on a misdemeanor.
Really? Yeah. He didn't kill his wife.
Schwartz says he told prosecutors they had a case, but not against Faria.
Our counter was, appoint me as a special prosecutor and let me prosecute the right person, and I'll guarantee you a conviction.
This is where the case takes a mysterious twist. Betsy's family believes Russ killed his wife after learning she was removing him as the beneficiary of a $150,000 life insurance policy, which he denied in our prison interview.
I didn't even know until after I was arrested that that had happened.
Police also found no evidence he knew about a life insurance change, and this potential motive did not come up at Faria's trial. But there's another reason for that. It would have opened the door for questions about another possible suspect. Betsy Faria was dying of cancer. Her friend Kathleen Meyer says Betsy had just come to terms with it. Her pain comforted, knowing her family would get a $150,000 payout from a life insurance policy.
Policies that will take care of my husband and my daughters. She said, so when I die, they will be well taken care of.
That was Betsy, always thinking of others. And she had also been trying to raise money for other cancer victims with the help of another friend, Pam Hupp.
This was going to be a legacy for her to leave something like this behind in her memory.
Kathleen Meyer claims Betsy and Pam had been going door to door looking for donations. But court records show that just 4 days before Betsy was murdered, the two took an unusual detour that would also raise some money for Hupp. Betsy and Pam went to Winghaven Library together. There, they had a librarian witness them signing a change of beneficiary form for Betsy's life insurance policy. The new beneficiary for that $150,000 policy, Pam Hupp.
It didn't make any sense to me at all. I had no knowledge of this until the insurance company was investigating the payout.
Less than a month after the murder, a detective gave the go-ahead to the insurance company to pay Pam Hupp. But months later, that same detective would ask Hupp in a follow-up interview why none of that money had been turned over to Betsy's family.
You now have this money and have not turned any of this money over to the family or the kids.
That's correct.
That's a huge problem. Betsy has told you that she wants you to hold on to this money to make sure that the family, the girls are taken care of. Yet they haven't seen a dime of that money. You still have it.
Surprisingly, the jury in Russ Faria's murder trial never saw this police interview. In fact, the jury was told to leave when Hupp testified about the insurance money. The judge never allowed that testimony to be used in the trial. The detective asked again about the day of the murder. Betsy was at chemo that afternoon. Court records indicate Hupp unexpectedly showed up at treatment to take Betsy home.
Hupp told the court they arrived at Betsy's home after 7 p.m. Shortly afterwards, according to court records, Betsy's daughter called her several times, but Mom did not pick up. Hupp told police she was gone by then. Listen on this audio tape recorded the morning after the murder.
We called my husband when we got there.
And you called him for what reason?
To tell him we were there. I don't really drive at night too much.
Did you go inside?
No.
First, she said no. Then, a major case squad investigator asked again.
So did you ever actually go inside the house?
I did. Well, we just went in. She turned on the hall light.
Police asked about another call Hupp made at 7:27 p.m.
I'm trying to think which one I called.
You called her when you got home?
I called Betsy to tell her I was home.
But cell phone records show that a 7:27 call pinged north of Troy in the area of the Faria home. I talked to Hupp at her front door right after the trial. I asked her if she remembered hearing Betsy's phone ring when her daughter was calling.
Betsy doesn't not pick up many calls.
Right, so I'm just wondering why she didn't pick up those.
That I can't answer. Maybe either we were in her bedroom then. I don't know. I don't know where her phone was. I never even heard any calls. I don't know if I left right before she got a call. I don't know. Like I told them, I wasn't expecting for police to come to my door that next morning, so I wasn't taking notes.
She also sounded uncertain during this videotaped re-interview about how she left Betsy.
I think originally you told investigators that when you left, Betsy was laying on the couch. Is that correct?
I know she was on the couch because she was going to put in a movie. She was going to watch a movie.
When talking to Hupp at her door, she told me the major case squad did not seize much from her to test as evidence.
And they took the clothing you said you wore.
Right.
And then did they look at the car?
I don't know if they did or not.
Police apparently didn't consider Hupp a serious suspect, and there were more surprises to come. In order to make a case against Russ Faria, prosecutors made surprising new allegations in closing statements. They convinced a jury this was an evil plan plotted by 5 people playing a fantasy role-play game.
That group of Russ Faria friends brought together in anger and outrage, not just over what's been said about him, but what's now been said about them.
I'm not going to lie to you. I mean, from reading the stories in the newspaper, from seeing the stuff online, hearing things on the news, it was pretty damning.
Since Russ Faria's arrest, these 4 people thought they could have been sitting right next to a murderer.
All you're hearing is, and we were hearing from investigators, open and shut case.
Michael Corbin, Angelia Hulian, Brandon Sweeney, and Marshall Bach all told detectives they were with Russ Faria from 6 to 9 p.m. the night Betsy was murdered.
For the longest time, like I even said, I thought Russ did it before he came out and hung out with us.
Then they learned at trial, prosecutors narrowed Betsy's time of death to between 7:20 and 9:41 p.m. Even Russ Faria's attorney says he didn't know prosecutors would suddenly accuse cooperating witnesses.
The state alleged that 4 innocent people conspired in murder. If these people aren't innocent, then why aren't they charged? Bigger question is, why won't the state go on record and say that to you? Because there's nothing to support it. Just like there's nothing to support that Russell Faria had anything to do with this.
In closing argument to trial, prosecutor Leah Askey called Betsy's murder the ultimate role play. telling jurors Russ Faria brought a murder plot to his friends. She said they set up the alibi using Brandon Sweeney to play a key role. Askey suggested Sweeney kept Faria's phone so it would ping in O'Fallon, Missouri at 8:57 p.m. Then she said Sweeney drove through the Arby's, getting a receipt stamped 909, so Russ could kill his wife 30 minutes away.
That really sickens my stomach because I tried to help him the whole time. Be honest and truthful, just trying to find what happened that night.
It made me sick. It really did. I just can't believe it. I didn't think things like that happened.
Faith in the justice system and authority figures, there is no faith in them anymore.
If we're guilty of something, we should be arrested. Leah Askey, probably in particular, is not going to like what we're doing here. But we don't want to be here. Leah Askey put us here by saying that our friend committed a crime that he could not possibly have committed. I mean, he was within 8 foot of us that night. There is no way he committed this crime.
And the evidence, or lack of evidence, appears to support their claims that Russ Faria is innocent. Police report finding no blood on Russ Faria. A crime lab report shows DNA testing revealed Betsy's blood on the murder weapon. And the DNA lab report continues. Russell Faria is excluded as the source of these profiles. A sensational and unexpected turn in the Faria murder case. Russ Faria is suddenly released less than 4 years into a life sentence after being convicted of murdering his wife Betsy. A savage killing. Betsy stabbed 55 times with a steak knife left plunged into her neck. Bombshell new evidence, and our continuing investigation led to a near landmark ruling. Russ Faria is granted a new trial. After 4 years behind bars, Faria walks out of jail into the waiting arms of family and friends.
What's up?
I was surprised. I knew everybody was trying to get me out, but I didn't know it would be this soon.
The order of a retrial followed a 2-year investigation by KTVI St. Louis into his conviction after evidence that may have exonerated him was determined to have been suppressed by the previous judge.
I think it made a world of difference, and I think that's kept things in people's minds and kept things on the forefront.
Defense attorney Joel Schwartz believes that Judge Omer, who will decide the retrial without a jury, will hear the previously suppressed evidence, which includes statements by Betsy's friend Pam Hupp, who drove Betsy home the night of the murder and also benefited from a $150,000 life insurance policy.
I want her to be able to be questioned the way that she should have been questioned the first time, because she gave several different stories of where she was when she made a particular phone call.
Now Faria's fate and his future freedom rests upon his retrial before Judge Omer.
After 5 full days of testimony, Judge Stephen Omer shocked prosecutors and Betsy's family, acquitting Russ Faria of his wife's murder. After 4 long years of hell, Russ Faria walked out of court a free man.
Oh, baby.
Love you too.
Prosecuting attorney Leah Askey issued this statement immediately after the acquittal. While I believe in our justice system, I disagree with his verdict. My condolences go out to Betsy Faria's family. We also reached out to Pam Hupp's attorneys and did not hear back. Russ walked out the front door of the courthouse. The night before, Pam Hupp, the sole beneficiary of Betsy's $150,000 life insurance policy, walked out of a back entrance and drove away without testifying in the second trial or answering any questions. Still, Pam Hupp has not been charged or even accused of playing any role in the murder of Betsy Faria.
And with me now is Russ Faria and from our St. Louis affiliate KTVI reporter Chris Hayes. Gentlemen, thanks for being with me.
Thank you. Thank you.
Russ, the moment the gates swung open and you walk out of prison after almost 4 years, a free man, what is going through your mind?
That right there was just very surreal. It is very moving. I don't think I was able to hold myself up, so my lawyer in an embrace was literally holding me up because my legs melted underneath me after the judge handed down the verdict.
Even as you were working through that first trial, I imagine, as an innocent man, you probably stand back thinking, right, I know it all seems dark and gloomy, but surely the right thing's going to prevail here. They will discover that I didn't do this.
Unfortunately, there was a lot of evidence that was suppressed in the first trial, things that weren't allowed to be presented. My lawyer
The way I put it was like a boxer with his hands tied behind his back.
There were a whole series of failures in that first trial that now surely have to be examined more closely.
The biggest failure was the suppression of evidence from a witness who was the last person to report seeing Betsy alive and who benefited from a life insurance policy. And the jury never heard it, and it was astounding.
Russ, you now walking out as a free man, there has still been no justice for Betsy. Who killed her?
Well, I have my beliefs about that. Again, I don't want to throw stones at anybody, but there is overwhelming evidence that Pam Hupp had something to do with it.
Russ, this is probably a difficult question, but it has been alleged that there was a relationship going on between Pam Hupp and your wife. Pam herself has said that they were having a lesbian relationship. What do you say to that?
Anybody that knew my wife, and I knew her probably more than anyone, I really honestly don't believe that's the case. She's been interviewed 13 times by the authorities and lawyers, and I believe she's given 13 different stories. So it's a matter of which one is the truth, if any of them are. I just think it's somebody grasping at straws, trying to get suspicion off of themselves.
Do you firmly believe that she killed your wife?
I believe that she was involved with it and possibly had one or more accomplices. I don't know that she actually committed the deed, but I think she did have a big part in it.
We must stress, of course, that she is not at this stage a suspect. She maintains fervently her innocence. What makes you think otherwise?
Well, the insurance policy is a big factor to me.
We've heard Russ say that he believes Pam Hupp had something to do with this. Do you have a personal position on whether or not she was involved in this crime?
As a reporter, I don't. I am seeking those answers. And even in fairness to Pam Hupp, we need to seek those answers. But right now, authorities won't do it. And I've talked to almost a half a dozen witnesses who have information that could help. And I've told police, and they will not go talk to those witnesses.
What's been the explanation? Have you received an explanation? That's staggering.
Not a satisfying explanation. It is staggering. The only chance now would be if the U.S. Attorney's Office or the Missouri Attorney General's Office decided to look at this, and they'll be coming to me if they do, and I can give them people who they could talk to. The answers need to be sought.
Do you miss her now? How often do you think of Betsy now in your mind?
I think about her every day, and I miss her, and what comforts me is I just know that she's gone to a better place. She's not suffering. She was dying of cancer, and that's all gone now. And so I just pray for her every day and know that she's with the Lord above.
Well, Russ Faria, our reporter Chris Hayes from our affiliate KTVI, thank you so much.